In a recent video, I shared with you how easy it was to create a gratitude journal in Affinity Publisher. Well, I'm back with another low-content book interior tutorial. If you've always wanted to learn how to design meal planners in Affinity Publisher, this is the day. Hi, I'm Samantha, the Get It Done girl. I teach you how to make money online using the skills you have while doing the things you love. I also explore tech and tools to help you become more productive and streamline your business. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been with me since day one, thanks for having my back. Let's get down to business. Most beginner author publishers who design material for KDP often find it challenging to set up their manuscript or interior for publishing. This is an integral step in the process since if a book lacks proper formatting and setup, it will likely be rejected during the review process. To avoid this headache, I rely on KDP's print setup calculator and paperback templates. I almost always talk about this tool when creating tutorials for book interiors. For my meal planner, here are some things I will be adding to ensure that my book comes out how I want it to. The trim size of my book is 8.5 by 11 inches. This is a weekly meal planner, so the user should be able to use it for 52 weeks, 365 days. The user will be given 2 pages or one spread to plan their entire week. This means that I need to take into consideration breakfast, lunch, dinner. And since some persons snack often and might take dessert, I need to throw that into the mix as well. Most meal planners carry a grocery list and section for note taking, so I am going to be adding this to the interior. Since 2 pages will be allotted for a week, the planner will be used up to 52 weeks, so I will need a total of 104 pages for the meal planning section. I'm also going to add 2 more pages so that I can include a front and copyright page. So what I'm going to do now is to bring up my KDP print calculator and we can really start setting up the interior. To set up my page or my book, I'm going to go ahead and add the trim size. As previously mentioned, the trim size of my book is 8.5 by 11 inches. The number of pages my interior will contain is 106. And the ink and paper choice of my book will be left to black ink and white paper. Now I'm going to choose the manuscript with bleed option because I will be creating my front page in such a way that the images will extend beyond the page. If you're not working with any bleed, if there is no image to go across the page, simply choose the with no bleed option. Now this is the new dimension of my book. It's now 11.25, which is a trim size plus bleed, and the width is 8.625, which is also the trim size plus bleed. My bleed is 0.125, my outside margin 0.25, and my gutter, which is usually the inside margin, is 0.375. So I'm going to head over to Affinity Publisher and I'm going to add this information to get set up. So I have Affinity Publisher up and I am just going to add the information I need to set up my book. My width is 8.625. My height is 11.25. The DPI I'm going to leave at 300. The number of pages, 1. No facing pages, so I'm going to deactivate this. and I'm just going to go down to the margin. Now my left margin is 0.375. Now this is something you need to bear in mind. When creating books for KDP, they at least need or want or expect an outer margin of 0.25 inches, but you can increase it, so you don't have to leave it at 0.25. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to increase my right margin to ensure that it's also 3.75, and for my bottom margins I'm going to leave that at 0.25, and also my top margins I'm going to add my bleed, which is always 0.125 inches, and I'm going to select create. So automatically Affinity Publisher starts you off with a single page, and this depends on how many pages really you had entered when you were setting up. So I only had one page, and this is what they gave me. Now I am not going to work on this page. What I'm going to do is to head to the master pages and use the master pages. Now if you've seen my other videos on Amazon low content books, you would have realized that I always emphasize working with master pages, especially when you're going to be repeating content. This is important because if you make a mistake, rather than going through the entire interior or document to correct that mistake, you can simply use the master pages. So please practice working with master pages. I will have a video on this to explain to you how it works and how it can be used to really maximize your productivity. So please subscribe and look out for that video. So what I'm going to do is, since I have one master page, I'm going to create another master page. So I'm going to duplicate this one, and I am going to call this master A and master B. You can go ahead and rename it, but I'm just going to leave them as is. Now, for a typical meal planner, since you are organizing your meal for the week, well, at least for this meal planner, since I'm organizing the meals on a weekly basis, I am going to, in a sense, present the information in a table view or format. So I'm going to have the days on one hand, and I'm also going to have the meal of the day, such as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So the user of this journal will be able to add what they'll be having for breakfast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start designing my page. But first, I'm going to go to view just to ensure that the margins and bleed I had outlined previously from the setup page is visible. To do this, I'm going to go to show margins, and I'm also going to go back and show bleed. Now, for accuracy when creating your table, you can also activate the grids. And this is useful, especially when you're creating lines that need to be straight. So since I'm going to be using a table format, I am going to create a table. And this is the option I'm going to be using, which is the table tool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to simply drag this on my screen. So since I'm only working with 4 columns and 8 rows, I am going to go ahead and remove or delete the excess or extra columns that I really do not need. So what I'm going to do is to click up top, and immediately it highlights an entire column. So what I'm going to do is press Control, and I am simply going to move across the columns that I want to remove, and then I'm going to go to Table and I'm going to delete columns, and that remove removes everything. Now what I'm going to do is to repeat the process, but this time I am going to be deleting rows. So I'm going to click and I'm going to go all the way down. And I want to ensure that once I'm done, I have at least 8 rows. Now this might be too much, but I'll come back and remove anything in excess. So once it's highlighted, I'm going to go back to table and I'm going to delete rows. And I'm also going to drag the table onto my entire page. The next step is to remove the rows that I do not need. So I'm going to count how many I have and just to see how much I need to remove. All right, so it stops here. So I'm going to remove everything below this point. Oops. Let's undo. And I'm going to go back to table and delete rows. I'm also going to drag this. Now, just so that I'm able to see clearly, I'm going to go back to view and I'm going to deactivate the grid for now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I have 4 columns. And these columns will be useful because I will be adding breakfast, lunch, and also dinner. So the next step is to really brighten the lines on this table since it's looking rather dull. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ensure that the table is selected and I am going to go to this menu up top and I'm going to choose table format. Sorry, wrong option. I'm going to choose table and I'm going to ensure that the stroke is set to black and I'm going to increase the stroke by 2 points. Now, as you can see, only the stroke on the outside has been changed, but I want to ensure that the strokes on the inside are also changed. So I'm going to ensure that the table is selected again, and I'm going to go back to the table option. If you're not seeing it here, you can come up top and choose table and then show table. So since the frame is the outside or the exterior of the table, I am going to choose the stroke and fill section to ensure that the inside lines are affected. And this option is right here. So you would simply adjust the width and I'm going to set this to 2. Now, as you can see, the lines on the inside have all changed. So what I'm going to do now is to start designing. Since I prefer to use or create a meal planner that is undated, I am not going to be adding what week this is or it is at the top of the page. What I'm going to do is simply give the user the option to add the week they're planning for. And this is useful because let's say, for example, someone gets busy and they forget to really plan a particular week. They could always indicate what week it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to view. I am going to show my grid so that it's easier, and I am going to choose the artistic text tool and I am going to start writing. This is going to be weak, and I'm going to leave it as is. Let's increase the size of this font. This is going to be set to 64, and I'm going to change the style. Now you might need to buy a font, a fancy font, if you want to get elaborate. You can do this on Creative Fabrica. So I will have a link in the description box if this is something you want to check out. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to go back to the font family, and I'm going to select another font because I'm not too feeling the one I just chose for this planner. So I'm simply going to be scrolling through to see if I can find something, or better yet, I'm going to find something off camera and come back, because I usually take a lot of time to find a font that suits me. So I will be right back. So I was able to settle with a font, and I also drew a line on the page. Now what I'm going to do is start adding text to the rows and columns just to indicate where the breakfast, lunch, and dinner slots are. So I'm going to go back to text, and I'm going to start adding. So this is going to be breakfast, and I'm going to reduce the size of this font, and I'm going to add it to the breakfast column. I'm also going to copy this across the board. So this is breakfast, lunch, and this is dinner. The next thing I am going to do is to adjust the size of the first row. I don't think I need so much space or room. So what I'm going to do is I am simply going to edit this section by dragging the line up. The next thing I'm going to do is to add the days of the week. So you can choose to start with Monday or Sunday. It is totally up to you. I am going to be starting with Monday, and I'm not going to write out everything, but I'm going to just leave the abbreviated version. And this is going to be Sunday. And I'm also going to double click and ensure that this column is selected, and I am going to drag to bring in the cell. So the cell is going to be made smaller. That's the aim. Let's see how this looks centered. next step is to design Master B. And for this section, I am going to need a slot for snacks, desserts, and a grocery list. So let's start designing our next page. I'm going to go back to view and I'm going to ensure that my grids are activated. This is me drawing a box. I'm going to copy this. Going to go back to Master A and just copy a text since I'll be using it. This is going to be my grocery list. I'm going to bring this to the front and I'm going to extend this box. I'm going to draw some lines. Going to copy just to ensure that my lines or the spacing between lines is really something that the user will be able to write on or in between. I'm going to go to view and I'm going to set my baseline grid and I'm going to ensure that it's set to 20 points. Also going to go back to baseline grid. I'm going to show baseline. So the blue lines running across, these are my baselines. Now if I wanted to set the baselines bigger, I would come back and adjust this to 24 points. And I'm simply going to position these on the page. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Ctrl J to really duplicate everything in order or in perfect alignment. So I'm going to press Ctrl J and I'm going to drag this down. Then I'm going to press Ctrl J again. As you can see, everything is just copying in the right place. So I'm going to highlight everything that is here and I'm simply going to hold down on Control and use my mouse to drag everything onto this section. So once everything is selected or highlighted, hold down on Control and simply drag using your mouse. So these are my lines and I am going to go to this section and this is where I'll be adding my dessert and my snacks. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to ensure that it aligns with this. I'm going to pull it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to separate both sides. So I'm going to remove the baseline grid so I can see properly. So I think I'm going to leave this as is, or you could simply just draw a line in the middle. And this is not straight, so I'm going to go back to my grids just so that I can draw a straight line. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to come back to grocery. I'm going to copy the text, and I'm going to align it and change the color. This is going to be snack, and this is going to be my dessert. Going to zoom, and I'm going to go back to view and show my base grid, and I'm simply going to start adding a few checkboxes of sorts. So now that my master pages are all done, I am going to show you how to apply it throughout the entire document. Now, as I've mentioned before, the meal planning section will contain 104 pages. So since I already have one page, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to add 103 more pages. To do this, I'm going to right click, add pages, number of pages 103, and I'm going to add it after, and I'm going to ensure that none is selected. You should scroll down. I have 104 pages. So what I'm going to do is to start applying my master pages to each page. So I'm going to go ahead and choose apply master. This is after right clicking. So simply right click, apply master, and I'm going to ensure that master A is selected, and I'm going to apply it to my odd pages. So this is going to count. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and onward. So I'm going to replace existing. It really doesn't matter. And I'm simply going to click OK. And let's scroll down. As you can see, master A is being or has been applied to the respective pages. So I'm also going to go ahead and apply master B, right click, apply master, and I'm going to ensure that B is selected. This time around, ensure that even pages are even pages is the option that is selected. So whatever pages master A was not applied to will receive master B. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click OK. So let's look at our document to see what's happening. So this is the first page, and as you can see, everything has been applied as it should. So I'm done with my meal planner. I did add a copyright page and also the front page off camera. This is what it looks like. Now, once your meal planner is done, it's important for you to convert this from Affinity Pubs extension to a PDF. So you'd simply come to export, and this is the option you'll see. Always ensure that the DPI is set to 300, and if your interior has a bleed, ensure the bleed is selected as well. Now let me show you what my planner looks like. And this is my planner. As you can see, this is the front page. I am satisfied with how it turned out. I also added this little message here, nothing special. Properly planned meals are more nutritious, organized, stress-free, and delicious. Happy meal planning. And this is my copyright page. If you are going to download this template, which I'm going to add or upload to my Gumroad shop, please ensure to add the name of your book publishing business here. So let's say, for example, if you are publishing under Samantha Boris, then this is what you need to put here. So it would be copyright 2021. In this case, we're in the year 2022. I did simply copy and paste a previous copyright page text. And so that is why the 2021 is here, but I'm going to change this before uploading it to my Gumroad shop. So simply add the name of your pen name just after 2022, and this is what the rest of the interior looks like. I absolutely love it. Now this is the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed the video, if you've learned anything, please like the video, leave me a comment, and let me know what other low content book idea you'd want me to create a tutorial for. And if you're having any trouble with Affinity Publisher, please let me know by commenting. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please join the family and subscribe to my channel. Remember, this is going to be uploaded or added to my Gumroad shop, so you can download it free of cost, of course. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.